The conference room was already full. Glass walls, leather chairs, a long table polished until it reflected faces. People were talking numbers, quarterly growth, market share, efficiency. At the far end of the room, a man pushed a cleaning cart slowly past the door. No one noticed him at first. "Let's get started," the executive said, tapping the table. "We're already behind schedule." The door opened again. The janitor stepped inside. He was older than most people in the room. Gray hair, faded uniform. His hands were rough, stained from years of work no one remembered. "I'll be quick," he said softly. "I just need to clean the spill near the window." Several heads turned. One woman frowned. "Can't this wait?" she asked. The executive looked up, annoyed. "We're in the middle of a meeting," he said. "Come back later." The janitor nodded. "Of course," he replied. He turned to leave. Then someone laughed. Not loud, just loud enough. "Unbelievable," a man muttered. "They let anyone walk in here now." A few people smiled. The janitor paused, not because he was angry, because he had heard that tone before. The executive leaned back in his chair. "Sir," he said louder now, "you're interrupting senior management." The janitor looked at the table, at the charts on the screen, at the names printed on the folders. "I understand," he said. "I'll be out of your way." He reached down to wipe a small puddle near the window. The executive sighed dramatically. "Really," he said. "You're cleaning now?" Someone else chuckled. "Guess some people don't know their place," another voice said. The janitor straightened slowly. "I know exactly where my place is," he replied. That surprised a few people, but not enough to stop them. "Security," the executive said casually. "Can you make sure he doesn't come back in?" The janitor looked up. Security hadn't arrived yet, but the words were already enough. He nodded once. "I won't be long," he said quietly. The executive waved him off. "Just go." As the janitor pushed his cart toward the door, something fell from his pocket. A small folded card. It slid across the floor, stopped near the executive's shoe. The executive glanced down, frowned. He picked it up, not to return it, but to see what it was. His expression changed, just slightly. The janitor turned back. "You dropped something," the executive said. The janitor walked over calmly. "That's mine," he said. The executive held the card a second longer than necessary. "Read it." Then read it again. The room went quiet, not because anyone asked for silence, but because the executive stopped talking. He looked up at the janitor, then at the others, then back at the card. His voice was different now, lower. "Sir," he said, "can you stay for a moment?" The janitor met his eyes. "I thought you wanted me gone." The executive swallowed. "I may have been mistaken." The janitor didn't smile. He didn't argue. He simply stood there, waiting. The executive still held the card, not because he meant to, but because his mind hadn't caught up with what his eyes had just read. The room waited. Someone cleared their throat. "Is there a problem?" a woman asked. The executive didn't answer. He turned the card over, then back again. The janitor watched him calmly. "That wasn't for you," he said. The executive looked up. "You work here," he replied, almost defensively. "Why would you carry something like this?" The janitor didn't reach for the card. "Old habit," he said. The executive laughed once. A short, uncertain laugh. "Well," he said, holding it up slightly, "this says otherwise." A few people leaned forward. "What does it say?" someone whispered. The executive hesitated. For the first time since the meeting began, he didn't seem in control. "It's just a badge," he said finally. "An expired one," the janitor corrected. That made the executive stiffen. "Expired," he repeated. "Yes," the janitor said. "From before the restructuring." Silence. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. Before the restructuring meant before layoffs, before new leadership, before certain names disappeared from building. The executive's fingers tightened around the card. "You're saying you worked here before?" he asked. "I still do," the janitor replied. "Just not the way you recognize." Someone scoffed. "So what?" a man said. "We all worked here before." The janitor turned toward him. "Not all of you," he said gently. "We're here when the contracts were signed." That landed differently. The executive glanced at the door, then at the security monitor on the wall, then back at the janitor. "Sir," he said carefully, What exactly is your role in this company? The janitor took a breath. I don't have a role anymore, he said. I kept a promise. A promise? The executive echoed. The janitor nodded. To stay. The room shifted. People sat straighter now. This wasn't funny anymore. The executive lowered his voice. Who gave you that badge? The janitor answered without hesitation. Your predecessor. That name was never spoken out loud, but everyone knew it. The executive swallowed. That was a long time ago. Yes, the janitor said. It was. The executive stood up. Slowly. I think, he said, we should move this conversation outside. The janitor shook his head. No, he replied. This is exactly where it should happen. The executive felt a flicker of anger. You don't get to decide that. The janitor met his eyes. I already did, he said. The door opened behind them. A woman in a dark suit stepped inside. She didn't look at the janitor first. She looked at the card, then at the executive, then back at the janitor. Her face changed. Not shocked, concerned. Sir, she said quietly, why are you in this room? The janitor looked at her. You told me to clean the building, he replied. I never stopped. The woman took a step forward. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know, the janitor replied. But neither should some of the people sitting at this table. The room froze. The woman turned to the executive. Did you ask him to leave? She asked. Yes, he said quickly. He was interrupting the meeting. Her eyes narrowed. Did he? The executive didn't answer. She took the card from his hand. Read it, then closed her eyes briefly. This card, she said, opening them again, was never supposed to be taken from him. The executive felt his stomach drop. What is he? Someone asked. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she said, cancel the rest of the agenda. The projector went dark. Chairs stopped moving. Phones were set down. The meeting was over. Without a vote, the janitor stepped back toward the door. I didn't come to interrupt, he said calmly. I just needed to be seen. The woman nodded. You are, she said. As he reached the doorway, the executive spoke again. Sir, he said, what happens now? The janitor paused. Not long. Now, he replied. You listen. No one sat back down. They didn't know if they were allowed to. The woman in the dark suit placed the card gently on the table. Then she slid another document beside it. Thicker, older, edges worn. Before we continue, she said, I need everyone here to look at this. No one spoke. She turned the document around. The heading was simple. Founding agreement. The executive leaned forward. His breath caught. The name at the bottom of the page wasn't his. It wasn't anyone in the room. It was the janitor's. That's not possible, someone whispered. The woman didn't look up. It's not only possible, she said. It's binding. She tapped the page. This contract was signed before any of you were hired. Before this company went public. Before restructuring. The executive felt the room tilt. You're saying, he started. I'm saying, she interrupted calmly, that this building exists because of him. All eyes turned to the janitor. He stood near the door, hands folded, silent. I was supposed to leave, he said finally. Years ago. The woman nodded. You chose not to. I promised someone I wouldn't, he replied. The executive swallowed hard. Then why are you working as a janitor? He asked. The janitor didn't answer right away. When the company changed hands, he said slowly, I stayed to watch what it became. The woman added quietly. He retained permanent access under this clause. She pointed to a paragraph. Unrestricted presence. No title required. The executive's voice shook. So he could walk into any room. Yes, she said. Even this one. Someone stood up. This meeting was about layoffs, a man said weakly. Is he? No, the janitor said. Everyone froze. I didn't come to stop anything, he continued. I came because you were about to make a decision without knowing who you were cutting. Silence pressed down on the room. The executive looked at the spill near the window, the one the janitor had been cleaning. You were just doing your job, he said quietly. The janitor met his eyes. No, he replied. I was keeping my promise. The woman closed the folder. This meeting is suspended, she said. Effective immediately. She looked around the table. We'll reconvene when everyone understands what this company stands for. No one objected. No one could. The janitor turned to leave. The executive stood. "Sir," he said, voice low, "I owe you an apology." The janitor paused. "You owe the company clarity," he replied. "Not me." As he stepped into the hallway, the janitor glanced back once. Not at the executive. At the room. At the table. At the people who had left. "I cleaned this place so you wouldn't forget," he said quietly. "Be careful what you throw away." Then he left. Inside the conference room, no one moved. The contract lay open. His name's still there. Unchanged. The building didn't change much. The glass walls were still there. The logo was still the same. But the tone inside felt different. New executives came and went. Some stayed. Some didn't. Every time a new one arrived, there was a small ritual no one talked about. A briefing. Not written. Not official. Just a quiet warning. "There's a man," someone would say, "who can walk into any room." No name. No title. Just that. Years passed. The janitor no longer pushed the cart every day. He didn't need to. But his badge was still active. Still valid. Still untouched. One afternoon, a young executive noticed it. The badge, hanging inside a glass frame near the security office. Faded. Old. Out of place. "Why we keep that?" he asked. The security supervisor hesitated, then answered carefully. "That badge reminds us who this place belongs to." The executive frowned. "But he doesn't work here anymore." The supervisor nodded. "No," he said. "He just never left." In the boardroom, decisions were made differently now. Slower. People read contracts all the way through. People asked questions before laughing. People checked who was in the room. Once during a meeting, a junior manager spoke up. "Do we really need to double-check this?" she asked. "It's probably nothing." The room went quiet. Someone at the table cleared his throat. "Read it anyway," he said. No one argued. Across town, the man lived quietly. No interviews. No awards. He never corrected anyone who didn't recognize him. That wasn't the point. One evening, he walked past the building. Stopped. Looked up. Lights on every floor. People working late. Try to do things right. Inside, a cleaning crew moved through the hallways. A young janitor paused near the conference room. On the wall, he noticed the frame badge. He stared at it. "Who was that?" he asked his supervisor. The supervisor smiled faintly. "Someone who watched," he said, "and made sure we remembered." The janitor nodded. Went back to work. Careful not to rush. Somewhere in the building, a meeting ended. No one laughed. No one mocked. No one assumed. The badge stayed on the wall. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder.